We are back with another podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Tuesday. We're just 11 minutes late. No big deal. No big deal. Nothing went wrong. There wasn't any issues. Everything went super smoothly. All right, guys. We jokes, lots of jokes there. Yeah, we are back. It's not a snowy day. All the snow has melted. It quickly snowed and then melted within a few days. You might find a little bit of snow in some shadowy areas, but yeah, it was a couple days there where the town was kind of shut down for the most part. There wasn't too many people out and driving about, but yeah, it was enjoyable. Got myself some hot chocolate and put me in the hot chocolate mood, which I was trying to make some hot water and my Keurig was messing up for some reason. I'm not sure. But yeah, but I do have my Monster. No sugar, no cream. There is no sugar or cream in this. This is sugar free, but it's not coffee. So if anybody, I guess we haven't never explained that, but no sugar, no cream. That's talking about coffee. If you didn't know, now you know. Tim's just get some things situated and then he's going to join me here. But, guys, we got a great podcast for you. Tim and I are back up to 100%. I don't know if we talked about it, but we had been sick. Tim was sick for part of the cruise and then was sick when he came home still a little bit, I think. And then, I ended up getting sick the last cruise and then came home and was still sick for a couple days. And I'm just now I'd say I'm at 95. I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good. Glad to be back on dry land. Had a blast on the cruise, though. Of course, we talked about that last week. But yeah, weekend. If you watched, there was some good NFL games. No close games other than last night was pretty close. No. Last night was a blowout. The Rams. Oh my gosh, the Rams, who just kind of probably fighting for the people back home in LA with the fires. Everybody kind of knows about that. It's crazy there. How many houses have burnt down? It's just insane. So we pray that they're still fighting the fires. So far as I know, there's still at least a couple fires going on. But yeah, so LA Rams won last night, so that was cool because you're either gonna be distracted by there's probably a handful of guys that their house probably burnt down there in LA, and you're either going to be distracted by that or you're just going to let it focus you and fight for to give everybody distraction. That's what you need. I feel like if you deal with anxiety or any stressful situation, those people that deal with anxiety, I definitely deal with anxiety. A good distraction is always really nice. Tim!
Hey, Seth.
Welcome to the podcast. Yeah. Got everything situated. Everything went perfectly without a hitch.
Yes.
Moving on along. Wow, Tim, I didn't know you would lie right off the bat on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm sorry that we're 11 minutes late. I mean, we start getting ready. Now, I guess we got to start getting ready earlier. We got to start getting ready at half an hour before.
No, it's fine. I mean, I there was 10 minutes where I was lollygagging trying to get my hot chocolate. I was just trying to warm up. I was like, I should have thrown this in the microwave 5 minutes ago. I was trying to bump it through my Keurig, and it wasn't working.
Our streaming app is very glitchy.
And it has not been the best of friends. We probably should.
I mean, I set it up and I save the channels, and then it doesn't save them. I keep going back. And then I exit the program, and I start it up again, and suddenly they're there.
There they are.
Restream.
And here we are.
I'm naming you. Guys, you are so glitchy.
Guys, Tim was counting out the numbers for last week's podcast. We are over 500.
Yeah, over 500 views on 3 different channels. Thank you.
And every 500 of you better be watching the whole thing, or at least forwarding to the best parts.
Yeah, so we're getting there. We're on Tim Wolf Facebook, or just almost 300 last podcast, and on Tim Walter, my personal page, we were 170 or something, and then on Instagram. Shout out to Instagram. Those of you who are watching us on Instagram, we just started going live on Instagram not that long ago, and then I uploaded after from the archive, and that had almost 200 views. So
nice.
Thank you. I mean,
awesome.
We're so grateful for all of you, and
so grateful. We love here, sending out a warm little hug. Little. Do you consent to this hug? Okay, there you go. I forgot it was 2025 for a second there. Happy New Year.
Yeah, I got to consent before you do anything in 20.
Even virtually. There was some people offended out there, right? I did not consent to this virtual hug. Send. Karen. I'm feeling good. You're 100% now.
Not 100, no. But
not 100.
I mean, I'm finally getting back to a fairly routine. But I find myself still fatiguing toward the end of the day. I mean, I used to go till midnight, and now
I know you're out of control.
I can't. Either, it's either that I'm still a little bit under the weather, or I'm out of condition. Because I remember when I used to be on the farm. I remember one specific incident. When farming was very physical back then. I mean, for example, we had small bales. Now they use the big bales, which are round and they each weigh, depending if it's hay, it's probably a ton. Big bales that are, I don't know, if you stand next to them, they're about the height of a person, round, and they're picked up by loaders.
They are fun to skip across.
Yeah, if they're all stacked together. But back when I was a kid, we used they call them small bales, or square, and you throw them by hand. You stack them and you throw them and you feed them, and they
will come more of a rectangle, right?
Yeah, more of a rectangle.
One, yeah,
and they're about they're about that long maybe.
I remember having a farming set where
you grab them by the two strings.
Yeah,
and they weigh, if it's alfalfa, it could weigh 70, 80 pounds.
Goodness gracious!
And if it's hay, if it's straw, it's lighter. It's maybe 50 pounds, 60 pounds each, maybe. And I remember one specific incident. My dad was a beast. I mean, even in his 80s, he was lifting stuff that I remember I
couldn't keep up with him.
When I moved, I had this dresser. Well, it's behind me, but you can't really see it. It's a big green dresser. The thing at the bottom is so heavy. And I remember he was in his 70s, and I was moving, and he came, knocked on my door early one morning. He said, "Let's get you moved today." And so we go to move that dresser, and when I moved it in there, I had two young employees, strapping lads who were in their 20s, and the bottom is very heavy, and they had two guys on the bottom. I was on the other side on the top, and so because you tip it over, typically somebody on the top, and then the person that tips it over is the one who's kind of initiates it. So I was usually the one starting it, and so I started tipping that over. And my dad just go over and grabs it, and I'm like, I don't remember what I was planning. I think I was I don't know why I was moving it. I was not planning to have him do that by himself. And he just goes over and picks it up, and I'm like, two young 20-something guys had to move this. Dad, are you? I'm thinking to myself, Dad, are you okay? I knew better than to say anything, and nothing. Just picked it up, and where are we taking it? Where are we putting it? It was like. The man was in his.
Oh yeah, if you're not quick there to help him with something when you're supposed to be helping him, he'll just start moving it by himself. It won't matter what it is.
Anyway, so the point of the story is strongman, and I was in condition as well
he's
to keep up. He's a
perfect example. Sorry to interrupt you, but he's a perfect example of old man strength. Not just old man strength, old man farming strength.
Yes,
he is a freak. I remember another story with me being. What was it, in my later 20s probably, so he was probably in his late 70s, 80s, and he was out pulling fence posts. I think they were already pulled. He was throwing them in the back of the tractor, and oh my goodness, he just picks them up. Boop. I'm like, and he's just throwing them in there. Like he's like some winner of some strong man. It was like it was a strong man competition. It was like nothing, and man, he kept on doing it. I was like, well, I'm done. And I go inside, and I'm on the window. He's out there, boop, boop. just throwing those suckers in the back of the truck like it was nobody's business.
Well, before I went off to college, I kept up with it. In fact, I did more of the hard labor than he did. He would run the tractor and bring the bales, and I would stack the bales. Anyway, so the point of the whole story got me off setting it up how strong my dad was, and I wasn't conditioned to keep up with him or even outpass him. And we went away on vacation.
Which you used to be in that kind of shape because you were out doing that same thing.
Because I was doing the same thing he was doing.
He never stopped over the years.
So the point of the whole story is about being out of condition. As I remember one time we went away in the summer. We used to go to Christian retreat. It was on a lake in Minnesota. And we used to go there after summer harvest. The wheat was done. Maybe late August, before school started. And we went for a week. And I remember one specific incident that we were gone for a week and came back. And as soon as we got back, we went out and started doing physical work. And both of us, we'd only been away from it for a week. And both of us said, man, we're out of shape. So just 1 week away from that physical, he commented too. We were both commented, man, this is hard. So you could get out of a routine and you can lose your conditioning, whatever it is. I mean, my routine was typically to work till midnight usually.
Probably the mindset of it too.
And mindset too. So I don't know if it's that because my routine has been interrupted for almost a month now. So I got on the plane the morning of the 17th, and I flew to Miami, and then I went to Cuba, and then I came back. I got on the ship like the 21st, and I got off the ship the 29th, and then I got back. The first few days I was fine. I was in my routine, but then I started getting sick.
You mentioned Cuba again. Do I need to read the disclaimer? Are we good? I think we're good. Please refer to last podcast to the reading of the Cuba disclaimer. Everything's good. Thank you, government. I mean, I think there's maybe a couple lines I didn't mention. Tim loves to be an American. Tim is a proud American. He was visiting just Cuba for a short term. He meant no ill will toward America. His love for America is, in fact, he knows a little bit of the Star Spangled Banner. Tim, go ahead.
Oh, say
that was perfect. That was beautiful. Thank you, Tim. And let's go on with the podcast. God bless America. Whew.
Thank you for protecting me, nephew. I appreciate it.
They're at our door probably now.
They're at the door. Can you hear them pounding at the door?
You'll just be inside the door as they're knocking. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early? Take them away!
Yeah, so then I got back, and so, I remember the last time when we went away, we went to Greece and Turkey, and that trip. And then at first I went to Malta, and I was gone a month. And it took me, I remember that was after I said, I don't want to go away that long again, because it took me weeks to get back into my routine again. And so there's that. I mean, you interrupt a routine, maybe it's just me, but I think it's normal. Most people find it hard to reestablish a routine if you break it. There's a saying that say it takes, I don't remember the length of time, but it takes a period of time 3 weeks to establish a habit, is what I've heard. But you break that habit, it's easy to break it.
But is it a good habit if you're working till midnight every single night? I ordered a blow dart just in case you go to 1 o'clock. A blow dart you and then it just drag you down to your bed. If only I had to do it once and you didn't notice, thankfully. You just woke up.
Thank you for watching out for me, nephew.
Looking out for you. No overworking on my watch.
I'll tell you, I mean, it's other indie musicians out there. It's a grind today. If you want to have a career being an indie musician, it's not advisable because the odds are you're not going to reach the success level that you have in your mind's eye for yourself, because those Post Malones or Taylor Swifts or whoever your icon is that you're trying to follow, that's one in many millions chances. There's 105,000 songs being put on Spotify every day. Mm-hmm. and there are more being put on other channels. But so the amount of noise, the amount of songs being put out, to stand out from that is really hard. So,
well, I think the big question is, do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy the work?
Satisfaction. You have to establish your success by, are you able to do what you love? And if you're able to do what you love, that is success. And I love making music, and so I'm doing what I love. So I've thought, it's easy to get discouraged, and I'm not the only one. There's a lot of musicians who post discouragement, burnout, because now it's different than decades ago. Now, if you're a musician, an artist, you're expected to be almost like an influencer. You put out, clips every day, multiple times a day. You got to do a lot of videos. People that are signed artists with recording contracts, they complain that their A&R person at the recording company makes them, you need to send me more videos so I can promote this song or this album and make more videos. And you make videos all the time, making content all the time. Versus a small portion of your time is spent writing songs and recording them and making music. I mean, hopefully it's at least 50%, but there's a lot more involved. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm not complaining. I don't want to complain. Please make sure I'm not complaining.
Tim is not complaining. Tim loves America, and Tim does not complain. He has never complained to me. He doesn't complain to our pet Fido. That's our dog Fido, who is invisible.
Is Bob taking care of Fido?
Bob's taking care of Fido. I don't know why I decided to make up a dog. Maybe deep down I want a dog at some point.
Well, I do. I love dogs. When I go for a walk, and I walk every day, and I see people walking their dogs, and I'm drawn to those dogs. I'm like, oh, but I want to be like a dog uncle or a dog grandpa, not the ones that be responsible for them. The ones that can play with them, and then, okay, back to you.
Well, something we could do is what's it, like a short-term adoption or whatever, just until they have a placement. You just watch dog for a week or two.
They don't have that.
Yeah, that's the thing. No. I'm using the wrong word. Yeah.
You are kidding me.
Yeah, where they're trying to get
foster home?
Foster. Yeah, you can foster dogs. I don't know if that's. Nashville's huge. I bet it's available in this area for sure. So they give it somewhere at home. I'm guessing you're probably responsible for the food. Maybe. Probably depending on the situation. They might even provide the food. I don't know, but just give it a loving home while they're trying to,
9 times out of 10, that dog I'm going to adopt. I'm going to be the one adopting
the
dog.
I was going to say. I didn't know how much
fall in love with that dog.
I didn't know how much you were interested in a dog at all, but I would 100% split the cost and everything and doing everything. And
you heard it first on the No Sugar No Cream podcast.
It's not. I just like
Tim and Seth may be getting a dog.
I would want no bigger than a medium size. I like smaller dogs myself. I think you're more of a bigger dog kind of person. Well, so maybe we could compromise and find something medium size.
What's your favorite breed?
I would love something.
What's your favorite breed?
Well, okay. Well, you definitely wouldn't want to. It's not my favorite breed. It's just what I've ended up getting with exes. I've lost 2 Maltese dogs in breakups. They're the really small white ones, and they don't shed, and they don't. People aren't allergic to them or something like that. Wait, I even. What's that? Oh, there was a mutt dog. He was a smaller dog. I had a roommate that had a dog, and that was the one. Did I tell you the story of? Have I told this on the podcast about having the roommate and the dog?
Tell the story. Okay, you've told me the story, but I don't think you told on the podcast.
Maybe not on the podcast. Okay, so I had a roommate, and he was a decent guy, but he was an older guy, and we had our own lives going, and my really good friend Nathan, who hopefully is going to come visit before too long. In fact, you know Nathan very well.
Nathan's a cool dude.
He was going to be my roommate. He wanted to be my roommate, so I was told my hesitantly told my present roommate that man, I'd really like my best friend to be my roommate. And he was totally cool about it. And I was so freaking out about it. He's totally cool. But he had a dog that he had fostered and become I was its uncle in a way. I cuddled with that dog all the time. And it was such a sweetheart.
What kind of dog was that?
I don't know. It must have been, I think it was a little bit of a mutt, a little bit of a couple things. But it was a smaller dog. Not super small, but a little bit bigger than super small. And it was a smart dog. Very loving, smart dog. And so his owner is moving out and Nathan is starting to move in and that dog is giving me looks. He knows what's going on and he is not very happy. And he is giving me the saddest puppy dog faces and I felt so horrible. But Nathan comes in and puts his bag in the kitchen.
Nathan is your new best friend that's moving in.
Yep. Yeah. Brings in the dog, goes and pees on or just next to his luggage.
And incoming luggage, a dog pees on it.
Nathan and I just looked at us. Nathan wasn't even upset one bit. You're like, oh my gosh, that dog knows exactly what's going on. And I think maybe he even peed in the bedroom also. And he never pees inside unless like you've left him in too long. But
he's like, this is the only way. I can't talk to them. I can't complain, but I can pee on their luggage.
So his owner, the only issue with him as a roommate was, and it got a little annoying at times, but the only person that was mostly annoyed was a dog. He would drink too much. Come later in the evening, he would drink beers. So it was nothing. He wouldn't get too bad belligerent or anything, but the dog would start barking at him. And the dog was basically telling him, stop drinking, that's enough. And he would mess with the dog because he just thought he's barking at him. And like, no, the dog is telling you, you're done, son. He's trying to cut you off is what he's doing. He's literally trying to cut him off. He's like done with him. And he thinks he's just playing around because he's drunk. And so he's just messing with the dog. And the dog, because he never barks. That's the only time he ever barks. It's when he's drinking too. Wow. And it's such a smart dog. But he knew exactly what was going on. He knew that he was moving out and he loved living there. That was home for him. And oh my gosh, it just broke Nathan and I's heart just seeing that happen. And I think he even peed on Nathan's bag maybe too, but didn't even, it might've just been next to it, but because he didn't hate him that much, I guess. Because he knew who Nathan was, because Nathan would come over and visit. Probably at least once a week and come hang out. And he got to be friends with my roommate too. But he was an older guy, I was wanting to check in on. He used to call me every once in a while, but he's probably like in his he's probably in his 70s now. So I'd get some of his random mail every once in a while. And I was really wanting to check on him because I noticed something was like from an ambulance. I was like, I think he probably had to get a ambulance. But on that nature, I had a renter that rented out. Before I came back there, I was renting my rooms individually, and where my room was, it was like there was like 2 or 3 renters I had a relationship with just over the phone as a renter, and they kind of, after enough conversations, maybe they're running behind rent and I'm helping them out by not charging them a late fee or giving them a little extra time. And just by communicating with them over the phone, like I got to know this guy, but he ended up having to move out just because he had a number of heart attacks and stuff. And, but I got to know him on the phone, but never even met him. But I don't think he wanted to see me too because he left the place kind of messy, and he knew I'd be probably pissed about that. But it was funny. For the longest time, I had one renter and then I moved back there because I was thinking about selling the place, and I was about to sell the place for probably like at least 50,000 less than I thought it was worth. And I found out why people were contacting me so much because I had the price way too low. And but then that was the first property I ever bought, and that's done so well with me. It's this duplex in Northwest Arkansas, and I lived there before I came to you. I was remodeling one side and getting my side and getting them both rented out so I could leave. I had to take care of that, and I got a neighbor that's kind of watching over the place for me, helps me out with new renters and stuff. I'm just talking.
Well, that brings up something that happened to me. And so I got dad loved diesel cars. And he used to drive the, what was a Volkswagen Jetta, right? Volkswagen Jetta. And I got that car when he died. No. What's that?
How many miles did that have on it? Is that, or maybe that's one of the old ones?
I don't recall.
Yeah, there's one that I think he's put
like 200,000 miles, maybe. Oh, but they go forever. Those diesels go forever. And I after Dad died, I had the car, and I didn't really. I mean, I had a car and a pickup, so it was a third vehicle. I didn't need it really, and so I looked on whatever app I found. What is the app where you can
Blue Book. Blue Book is probably one of the biggest ones. But
anyway,
there's a couple different ones.
I must have looked at the wrong one because I priced it at $2,800, and it was getting calls, and somebody literally called me and said, "You got that price too low. That's worth as much as $4,500."
Wow.
Somebody I didn't even know. Can you imagine that? That's South Dakota for you. That's South Dakota nice. Mm-hmm. People are so nice that they will say, "You're selling that too cheap. You need to raise the price." And so I raised the price to $4,500, and I ended up selling it for
because he's talking about my house.
$4,200, I think, something like that. Guy came and paid cash, and I remember it was a whole bunch. He paid it in cash. It was interesting, and I'm like, am I gonna regret this? But it was fine. It was legit cash. So. So, sometimes you don't know what it's worth. I mean, you do your best, try to do your due diligence, and try to figure out what it's worth, and maybe...
Yeah, because there is still a range. And then sometimes there's situations like after COVID, the cars were going for at least $2,000 more than what they were before. And then even probably more as you get more expensive.
Right. Well,
I couldn't find a used car. Usually all day I could find something between $2,000 and $3,000. And I flew back to Northwest Arkansas, and my buddy was looking for me a car, and he has a dealership, so he's always getting used cars in all the time. And it took a while to find a vehicle under $3,000 because I didn't want to spend. I just like buying cheap cars, which that one's the one that was stolen. I've talked about that on the podcast, I'm pretty sure, right?
And you still have the key.
I still have the key, just in case it just shows up.
Magically. Well, the thing about it is a diesel in South Dakota. So South Dakota, it gets really cold in the winter. And it will go, winter can start in October. You can get snow on the ground, and it stay in the ground and not disappear until late March, maybe even early April.
Is this still a thing to plug your vehicle in during wintertime?
Yeah. South Dakota, you plug your vehicle in if you don't have a garage. Most people don't have garages, right? But if you're outside, you plug it in. And that's fine. But you take a diesel vehicle and you go to an event, and it's 20 below at night, which is not unheard of. In the dead of winter in South Dakota, it's not uncommon to have 3 weeks, 4 weeks where in January where the temperature never gets above zero. I'm not freezing, zero Fahrenheit. And with the wind blowing. So, you could have a 3 week stretch where the highest temperature, which would be in the middle of the day, when the sun is shining at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the temperature for the day is -7. And at night, it gets to -20, -25. Mm-hmm. That's not super uncommon. I wouldn't say that happens every year, but it would happen fairly frequently. And when you get to February and March, you're like, man, is this winter ever going to be over? So anyway, you got a diesel. Let's say you go to a ball game. Let's say you go to a state basketball game, or anything. You get out of there, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and you got there at 7. Let's say. I'm just random idea. You go out for an event with your wife or your friends or whatever, and you get out, and or maybe you go to a 9 o'clock movie, okay, and you take the Jetta, and you get out 11 o'clock, 11:30, and that vehicle has been shut off for 2.5 hours. Let's say it's a longer movie, and that vehicle is completely cold, and now it's 11:30, and that diesel could be a hard start in that cold. -20, starting a diesel that's dead cold, could be problematic. Now you got your glow plugs to try to warm it up, but And
what's a glow plug?
A glow plug is you push a button and it takes the battery juice and you hold it in and it warms up inside where.
When you said glow plug, the first thing I was thinking was cigarette lighter. I'm like, how much would a cigarette lighter warm up? It's gonna warm up. Just give it a little bit of time.
So if you got a good system, and then you put additives in the diesel so it doesn't ice up. Whatever, I forgot the term now. There's a term for it because I've been out of that world for so long. I'm out of shape for having a diesel.
Would you usually not want to take a diesel into town?
Yeah, that's the point. There are people who don't want a diesel because in South Dakota. So it's kind of a unique item. Is it going to be in high demand? Is it going to be people going to try to get away from it?
Diesel used to be so much cheaper too than regular gas. And
then it got to the point where it was more expensive. And recently it's more expensive. So, there's so many tabulations there. Is it more valuable or less valuable? Do people want it? Especially in a car. Now, does that have a lot to do with supply and demand or the process of making it? Both, maybe even. And, black smoke coming out of the back. It's
not good for the environment, is it?
And you might not like that.
Yeah, it just kind of, yeah.
Diesel doesn't burn clean. And it's noisy. It makes a certain kind of a noise. A diesel engine has a certain noise. Now, if you're in South Dakota, a lot of guys have big pickups with diesels and they pull stuff. Maybe they're farmers or they have fifth wheel trailers and they need that diesel in a pickup. That's something completely different. But this Jetta I think it was a 90s model. So it was like 20 years old. So maybe all the technology, probably a new diesel probably has new technology that I think they even warm the diesel tank. I think they even have warmers in the tank now that keeps that diesel tank warm. In fact, I know they do because I've seen the snow on the big tanks. They have tank warmers, so the diesel liquid fuel is warm. That's what they have on. And that's why when you go into a truck stop, a lot of those diesel trucks, they're sitting there idling. They're sitting there idling. They never shut them off. But, a little Jetta car. Jetta's not that big of a car, and it's diesel, and it's 20 years old, and it doesn't have a warmer to warm the. It could be problematic. You're on a date with a girl that you really like. You take her to a 9:00 movie, and you come out at 11:30, and your vehicle doesn't start because it gelled up. That's the term, gel up. The diesel gelled up. She may say, "I'm never going out with you again." Problematic. Could be problematic.
That makes me think. I was here in Nashville one time. I was supposed to have a date with a girl, and I ran out of gas. And she kind of lost interest really quickly when I told her about losing. Yeah. And my speedometer was my fuel gauge was broken. I ran out of gas a couple times, and not just like it's an easy thing to you just fill it up when, and then you just put the miles. It's not that hard to make sure you don't do it, but I still ran out of gas a couple times, and I missed out on this date with this girl because she was like, "Yeah." But the nice thing about the highways around the Nashville area is they have free roadside service. So you just need to call up the city or whatever. Like, probably make it. It's good to have probably that number available. Well, but they're better than AAA. In fact, AAA just ignores you. I called AAA and they just never showed up. I was like, well, they should have told me. It was like, well, there's free. Just use the city. Like,
really free road. You've told me that before, but that doesn't. That's what's I'm gonna have to have the number.
I was just on the side of the road for a while, and they came by and gave me some gas, and I was good to go.
Are you sure you didn't dream that?
No, I definitely did. I was on the way. I was on the highway between here and heading down to our favorite, where my favorite movie theater is.
Cool Springs.
Cool Springs, yeah, down there, yeah.
So another story happened to me now a long time ago when I was in high school. And my car, if you had a car, any car, you were one of the few because kids didn't have cars back then. And very first date I ever went on in my life. This really cute girl from my church group. Her name was Paula. We won't say her last name.
Abdul.
Paula Abdul. It was Paula Abdul. She was in Huron, South Dakota. She was in Huron, South Dakota. Anyway.
Different Paula Abdul.
So beautiful, long black hair. She was Asian. And we went to the local college football game. There was a college game there in my car. It was an older car. And it was so cold. Oh my gosh, it was cold. It was, and I remember we're sitting on the metal benches, and she was so quiet. She hardly said anything. And it was hard to have a conversation with her. And then, so the game's over. And it's my first date. I don't know what to do. I'm I don't know, sophomore, I think, maybe. And I start a little young. Some people start earlier, but, I start a little late, I mean to say. And so then we go out to my car, and my battery's dead. Older car, maybe I left something on, I'm not sure. And so all the cars are gone. We're all there. We're the only ones sitting there in the parking lot. And so I called my buddy, Michael, and he's a few years older than me, and he had a Jeep, and
So what you had to go in the building to call, like, was there a phone
Good question.
Booth? How did you call him?
Yeah, how did I call him? Yeah, I'm thinking there was no cell phone. Exactly, yes. How did I call him?
I
must have gone to a payphone. I must have. And I must have known his number. I mean, different world.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
I must
yeah,
have
back
his
in the day when we had
memorized.
numbers
I had to
memorized.
have his number memorized, and I call him, and he comes, and he jumps me, and I get the car started, and I take her home.
Well, how was she dealing with that? Like, was she?
Well, she didn't say a word. She said nothing the entire night, hardly.
Really shy? Probably?
I guess. I don't know. And then I heard through the grapevine. Remember, this is my first date, and this is a church girl. That she was telling all her friends that I was slow to make out.
I see what she was ready to make out.
I guess
she didn't say a word because her lips were puckered the entire time.
Talk about for permission, or what was the term you were using before?
Consent.
I mean, there was absolutely no signals from her. She didn't even smile. She just. I mean.
Why did she have her eyes closed?
Slow to make out. There was absolutely zero. I was crushed because I didn't know how to behave on a date. I didn't know what was going on, and she told all the. So that was the buzz with all the girls in the youth group. Tim's slow to make out.
Tim's like, I'm not a whore.
It was freezing. I mean, the car was cold. In the car, because how long does a football game take?
She wanted you to warm her up, I guess.
I guess. I that was my first time of not understanding women.
So next date, did you make out with the girl?
Yes. Yes.
Lesson learned.
A different girl?
Yeah,
not that girl. A different girl.
Yeah, at least somebody that could say, hi, how you doing?
I can learn. I can take signals.
Kiss me, Tim.
Yeah.
At least
she was also the youth group. Went to drive-in theater. Double feature. But they don't have those anymore.
Not many of them. Still some rural areas they have them.
So that was the next summer.
A couple here.
Obviously, that because the football's
area.
in the fall. So I didn't have a date till the next summer, and that girl definitely.
Oh my gosh!
She wasn't going to say he's slow to make out.
No, yeah, definitely. There was definitely none in Hot Springs. No driving me through. Oh man, that would have been awesome to like.
I mean, nothing like a summer day. It's warm and you got the stars. You got if you don't have a cloudy day, and it's just.
I didn't go to my first one until college. There was a double feature spot. I think it shut down during COVID. Finally, it was up there in Fayetteville. And in fact, I remember the first time we went, it was only $1 for a double feature because my friend was like part of the fire department. And so it was only $1. So he paid $1 and we went in there and watched 2 features. And
$1 for the car?
Yeah.
You paid for the car. That's right. You paid for the car. That's
mm-hmm.
right. That's right. Different times. And then you had the speaker that you'd put it in your car.
Or you could put the radio on.
Back in the day, they didn't even have that.
The radio
speaker
station
in the car.
Yeah.
Speaker in the car.
Yeah, I remember we even took when I worked at the boys' home, we would take the boys there. That was something because that was still by the car, I think, or they ended up changing it per person, but it's still reasonable. But yeah, two films, you can't beat that price. I was like, now you got to have a good battery because you got to have your vehicle off. And then, or you got to just use those speakers. A lot of those speakers are like as old as that play. I mean, they are old as that drive-in. And so, like, I remember going dead with the battery in the van. We'd have a big 12-passenger van for the boys' home that I worked at, and I think going dead from having the sound go through the radio. But I don't know how I got.
I mean, it's lost. I mean, it's an experience that's lost. You know, I mean,
yeah. It came during COVID. Those became really popular, which is kind of crazy that one shut down. It might have shut down before COVID, even then. So a lot of those became popular during COVID because
you're in your car.
You're in your car.
Yeah.
And they even were doing stand-up comedy shows. Bert, not Bert. His best from the two. There's the podcast, Two Bears, One Cave, but Bert Kreischer and his buddy. His buddy was the one that was doing. I forget his name offhand, but yeah, he got big. He kind of came up with that idea to do that, and I think they were doing concerts that way too, and everything. So
I remember that now.
Yeah. Which is a lot more rural areas, I think, mostly. I mean, for one thing, I mean, they take such room that probably in a lot of cities that was probably sold off because the value of the land was so much. You have all this space taken up.
Probably, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it was called the Starlight Theater. Starlight Drive-In Theater.
I think
Starlight.
There's one or two within 45 minutes of us. They're like further.
Here in Nashville?
Yeah, they're further out of town. I think I looked them up because I was just kind of curious, or yeah.
And then, well, any moving picture. When I was a kid, I mean, well, first of all, we didn't even have a TV. I didn't have a TV growing up. I mean,
yeah, me neither.
And because our parents were quite conservative Christian people,
mm-hmm.
and. So, you're a little odd when you go to school and everybody's talking about the show that they watched and you have no idea and you feel left out a bit. And so...
But I would say there's probably plenty of kids talking about farming and all that, or hunting too. But yeah, that can easily happen, especially when there's only, back in the day, 4 channels?
Yeah, three channels. Fox wasn't a thing yet.
It's crazy.
It was ABC, NBC, and CBS. That was all there was.
Could you imagine? Now look at all
that. And then
days.
you had like the public. I think there was a public, maybe
PBS?
a public PBS, maybe, possibly. They're
The
like
worst
3.5
waste of
channels.
money.
Fox wasn't even a thing when I was in high school. Not at all. So yeah, I mean, so any moving picture was such a novelty,
mm-hmm.
and so you didn't really care. Now, I would want to see what's showing. I wouldn't want to go to a drive-in movie just because they had a drive-in movie.
Yeah, I mean, I loved your perspective on seeing Star Wars for the first time. Because, well, for one thing, you weren't ever a sci-fi person, but you went to see it and thought it was nothing crazy or nothing.
Well, yeah, it was just a summer movie. Nobody thought it was going to be what it was.
Yeah.
I took a date to that, and she didn't like it.
But that's your perspective, too, though, that I mean, probably a lot of you, I mean, it's different, though, too, and... But yeah, I mean, probably that was a common thread. A lot of people thought that, or what was
nobody thought it was. Nobody thought it was
going to be
anything. No. And then the main thing that we all remembered and thought was funny was the bar scene with all the creatures drinking. Remember?
Yeah.
The night or whatever would it be the nightclub scene, bar scene in the first one, the fourth one. It's not the fourth one. It's the first one.
Yeah, I mean, a different perspective too. I think being in a more rural area, I'm wondering what perspective a person in the bigger city would have had too, or someone that's a comic book, nerd. But that was original of its. I mean, what a concept!
And your brother is a big comic book guy. Mm-hmm. He knows a lot about all the, and you as well. The
well,
DC.
Daniel even read them. I never was a comic book reader.
Marvel versus DC. What's
but I
DC?
Like,
what's the rest of it?
Person.
DC.
Yeah.
What's
DC? Yeah, DC and Marvel. And then I mean there's.
Well, I was going to say there's another word after, but that's the band DC Talk.
DC Talk. Hey, we're neck of the woods. I think
DC and Marvel.
At least two of them still live around here.
And then Stan Lee. I never knew who any of that was.
He was one of the.
And
original.
There's a moment recently in the last few years. Probably one of the moments, probably one of the many that I greatly disappointed your brother, greatly, because I would, I often talk about my song, "She Likes the Rain," and how it's tied to when I was growing up. We're farming, and I'm helping on the farm. And even as a kid, I was driving a tractor before I started first grade, which was not that abnormal back then. Driving a tractor in the field, working the fields, not just to drive up and down the yard. And when it would rain, because we were always short on rain, to put my dad in a great mood, and we'd go to town, and I'd get some spending money, and I would buy candy and comic books. And one time, your brother asked me, "What kind of comic books did you buy?" And he thought I'm going to say, like, what would be the great ones, like
Batman or Superman, or
yeah, and all of the there's some really dark, like Green Lantern. Well, what are there? There's so many characters.
Yeah, DC's a lot. I mean, Batman
really
can be
dark. I mean, really dark.
Yeah, even back in the '80s, that was you were more of a teenager then. 20.
No, I mean these are after the fact because these comic books came out in the 50s. They came out in the 50s. A lot of these shows came out in the 50s, right? The comic books, the origination. Stan Lee, the origination of these.
Yeah, and then I mean they
like all of these characters, like the Avengers and all that. That was some stuff in the 50s, wasn't it?
I don't know all the years, but I mean I feel like the darker stuff even came further along, like in the last 20 years.
No, there was some really. If you look at the research, there's some really dark. Spider-Man. Look it up. When was Spider-Man created? Spider-Man was created in the 50s, I'm going to say. Google it.
So? Yeah, but, or I mean, I guess dark for you guys, yeah, because you never had anything like that. So what would be dark to you nowadays wouldn't really be dark, I would say also, though. But yeah.
But for conservative Christian upbringing, I wouldn't, there was, Green Lantern. I don't know. I'm trying to think of all the different... there's a lot of dark...
Just seeing all the aliens was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like...
And so, anyway, to finish the story, so your brother asked me, well, what kind of comic books did you buy? And, I think he was hoping I was going to say some of that. And I said, like the Archies, Richie Rich.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say Archie.
How did you know that?
Because it's that old. Like that's when it was popular.
But all those older stuff was still there. Look up Spider-Man.
62 Spider-Man.
62. This was after 62. So how about Green Lantern? What are some other ones? The Avengers. When was Avengers started? These are from the 50s and 60s.
If anybody wants to check their attic, that's what the original Spider-Man looks like there. He's like swinging. That's the original cover of the first Spider-Man. What were we just asking?
How about what are some of them? Green Lantern. That's probably better. How about Green Lantern? There we go. That's better. There you go. Yeah, Green Lantern.
Yeah, Green Lantern was probably 50s. I'm guessing. You think that's that old?
Yeah.
Let's look. I'm gonna guess if you're I was gonna say it's the 70s, but then I could be
Batman. Superman, 60s or 50s.
Superman is the original. Superman is the original, I think, basically for comics. That's worth oh my gosh, you get that in a decent condition. That's like
and there's a lot of dark. I mean, there's a lot in Batman. There's a lot of darkness in the Batman thing.
Yeah, DC I would always say has been considered always more dark than Marvel too, especially with the movies. If you look at the movies nowadays.
The look on your brother's face, he was so disappointed.
Oh goodness, yeah, man. What year did you say?
It's 50s.
Up or down?
What do you mean up or down?
You choose to go up or down. It's
down. 40s maybe.
Yep, 1940, man.
See, I'm telling you, this comic book thing was way back.
Right.
Way back.
But choosing which one, it's funny to think about which one, how old it really is. Now, Venom, that's a pretty dark character. Now, that's probably more like 80s or something like that. But yeah, it was amazing.
Batman. How about Batman? Batman's from
Batman's
the 50s.
One of the originals, yeah.
50s maybe.
If not even maybe 30s or 40s. '39.
Yeah. So I mean, comic book.
That was March. Detective Comic 27. Oh, so wait, Detective Comics number 27. That's when Batman showed up. The Batman detectives were even were already going. I thought he was the original of the Detective Comics, but he didn't show up till 27. We are like, were you joking about? You were saying if you like, I love antiques. You ask that every time. It's like you and Dango are both like that. Every time he said, "I know you hate shrimp." I know you dub that with antiques. I'm gonna slap both of you at the same time. Man.
Yeah, we're gonna go to Atlanta and visit my friend.
You don't like antiques, do you?
And she said there's an antiques fair there that is just. There's so much stuff,
serious.
And it's so inexpensive, but you got to remove it that day.
Right.
So I'm going to rent a U-Haul. How big of a U-Haul should I get? No, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Well, I mean, also, that's not too far away. We could always
see what we like,
and then go back and pick it up.
We could always rent a U-Haul after we see what we like.
Right, yeah, and I could drive the car and you can drive
maybe that's the way to
whatever.
do it.
That would be fine.
And if there's nothing we like, we don't.
2-3 hours? 3 hours.
I would say, I used to say 3 hours to Atlanta, but I think you better figure, I mean, Atlanta's pretty big and sprawled out, so depending where you're going, and I'm not sure what part of Atlanta she's talking about, but you probably better allocate 3.5, maybe 4, because you got to go through, what do you got to go through? I need to know this, and I always forget it. Chattanooga. You go through Chattanooga or you go through Knoxville. I always get confused. If you're going to the Carolinas, I think you go through Knoxville. If you're going to Atlanta, you go through Chattanooga.
Tim, we just do whatever the GPS tells us to do.
But if you're going to the Carolinas, like Asheville, beautiful. Which they had a lot of storms there, a lot of problems, a lot of this past year, floods and stuff. Remember? I hope their people are doing better there. You go through Knoxville, and you better allocate an extra 45 minutes just to get through the traffic in Knoxville. It's horrible.
It's
just literally slow and low. Anyway, what are you going on? I've lost you. What's going on?
You said, I hope they're okay, and I whispered under my breath. I said, they're all dead. Welcome to the dark side of the podcast. Tim usually gets to say the dark stuff. No, not today. I do. They're all dead.
No, they're not.
Not all of them. Just 75%.
Seth! We certainly have been having a lot of natural disasters. I guess.
Well, California brought themselves by saying they were going to. Well, anyway, they got to make that. Hopefully they learn their lesson this time, and you got to get rid of the trees. That's why a lot of these, we don't know, nobody's burning like California. They said they were going to weed out the old trees. They did nothing. They literally just caused their own demise. The government did nothing.
I don't know anything. Honestly, I know nothing about that subject.
Zero. Right. I mean, what you got to do is, because you have all these trees so close together, and then there's so many dead ones, and you got to take out all the old trees. Which unless there are a lot of the smaller ones, that's where those dead trees could be at least firewood or something. Probably depending on the situation, maybe cost a lot of money too. But you got to weed all those trees out, or that fire is just gonna come through. Now, there's danger of fire anyways, just because one Embro can travel, but it seems like there was some of it was even arson. Somebody started a fire and then, keeps going. But yeah, and then there's issue with water, but it was horrible. It was just praying for their safety, and hopefully they can get the rest of the fires out soon because it's just insane. And then I heard, so far as I know, this information is correct, but there was 50 some fire trucks that were headed to California, and they were stopped at the border because they had to inspect them all to see if they were compliant with their emissions. Isn't the biggest issue, more of an issue with emissions, the fires that are, the smoke that's all going in the air? But you're worried about the fire trucks that could put out these fires? It's just the bureaucracy and just like, it's, I think some of these people are probably going to end up quitting, or I don't see how. I mean, goodness, didn't they already impeach the governor of California one time, and then they voted him back in? I thought he was impeached. I don't think
he was impeached.
Or they tried to vote him
Newsom,
out. And then
Gavin Newsom?
Right.
He didn't get removed.
Oh, they tried to remove him, though.
They tried, but it didn't. It failed.
It failed. Well, right, because he's still in charge.
Yeah, I read about a guy. Now, there's a place in on I guess it's on the beach there, Malibu Beach. There's a mile called Billionaire Beach. Billionaire Beach.
Of them. All gone.
All gone.
Except like one or two houses.
Yeah. And one guy had put $27 million into a property. He was a real estate developer. Put $27 million into a property and imported the kitchen from Germany, $500,000. Imported special granite and marble.
And his insurance was only going to $3 million.
Cover $3 million.
Which now that's a good question. What was his coverage for? Because you have limits on your coverage. He probably never increased his coverage, or wasn't able to get that.
I don't know the details. But $24 million hit.
You know, another big issue down there is that there is no building of new houses on that, because it's like supposed to be like beach, like go back to like the city or something, or back to the public. It's supposed to be public area in a way. So they don't want any more houses built. So there's a good chance that all these houses won't be allowed to be rebuilt, supposedly. I don't know if that's 100% true, but that's one thing I heard. So, but I don't know. If you already had a house and it burned down, wouldn't you have a right to rebuild? Like it's your land?
Well, so I think I mean,
they find ways to
the wealthy people are going to be okay. You know, even if they, they're not going to be starving, and they can live in a hotel. But it's the people who are living on the edge.
Right, and there's even some famous people that are like that. There, one of these reality stars. He was crying on TMZ, and everybody knows his situation. Like him and his wife are very popular and been on different shows, but they're like, they lost everything. Like, and they don't have. I mean, he might have had insurance and stuff, but like he's still living probably from show to show, and he never gets big stuff. But he's well known. It's a lot to do with probably TMZ. I mean, but they're on a reality show and stuff, and different little show. But people have been supporting him his wife has an old album from like 7 years ago, I think. Yeah, I think it's 7 years old, and a lot of celebrities are doing it too. And people are going and buying her album on iTunes.
Nice,
and that's pretty neat. But it's interesting to see how humbled he was, because he's always been kind of a bratty, like, rich kid in a way, but like, I mean, but in no way does him and his wife have a bunch of money. And then they have, you burn down your house, you lose everything. And he's saying his parents had a house that they didn't even have insurance on, and completely lost that thing. But
yeah, I don't wish it on anyone. I don't wish that on anyone. That is, and it also, John Mayer.
Sorry, Spencer and Heidi Montag. That's the people. They were on a reality show.
I don't know.
Just if anybody out there probably familiar with them.
Mid-level, not a top celebrity.
Now you're speaking to my heart. I love John
Mayer. We both love John Mayer.
Yes,
and he posted. He had an envelope with pictures of his dad, apparently, and I got to follow up on this, but his dad was ill, and I think his dad must have passed away based on the post that he was making. Mm-hmm. And he was saying that this is all I have left of the memories of my dad.
He lost his house,
and boy, I don't remember. It seemed like he lost something, and he was the post was talking about how these things are invaluable. You can't put a value on like photographs and remember, a physical house is just a house, but the things that are not nostalgic, but are mementos of your life that only you have a value for, that is priceless.
I know that's another reason you are very right about when to put your pictures to digital, because
I've been working on that. One of my projects in this year is wanting to, and I started sorting them all, and I found a cache of photos when Seth was a little boy. Your mom would send me, my sister would send me photos of Seth and Daniel each year, and I got all these photos. Seth 1 year, Seth 2 years, Seth 3 years, Seth 4 years, Seth 5 years, Seth 6 years. And I'm going to put them all together and put them on the screen and scan them, and I'll say, here's Seth from whatever year to whatever year, and I'm going to have that scanned.
We should just hire an assistant for the house. Somebody could do the cleaning, a little bit of cooking, could do odd jobs like that.
Absolutely.
It was like work 10 to 20 hours a week.
Yes.
I mean, easily pay somebody between
DM
10
us
10 and 20.
on one of our pages if you're interested.
If you're in the Nashville area, hit us up. Goodness, we're at an hour now. 6:11. It was a good podcast. We were just going back and forth with stories. I love that. I love that. No dead space. Maybe just a little bit there when I was Googling something, but other than that, it was really good. Guys, thanks for watching the podcast and for listening to the podcast. Please follow us on we've heard that. Tim's
sorry.
That's great. Please follow us on No Sugar No Cream on Facebook. Also, we go live on, if you watch us like on Tim Wolf. Please share the podcast. We still can't go live on Tim Wolf because it is on No Sugar No Cream on Facebook because we're not at 100 followers yet. We're almost there. But wherever you are on Instagram, we're also on TikTok. Hopefully TikTok doesn't go away. But please share, subscribe, follow me on Seth Holmes, follow Tim on Tim Wolf on Instagram, Facebook, all that. And we will see you guys next time. Love ya. Bye.
Okay, you got to keep going.
Hey, we're still live.
That was TikTok. I heard TikTok.
Oh yeah, we're still we are still live on Facebook. Guys,